Well, thanks, Gary. It's great to be back with you. And right out of the gate, big news from the State House. Now, we've talked a lot about problems and abuse in the Florida prison system in recent days, but now the state Senate is pushing forward a new plan to make wide sweeping changes in the Department of Corrections, the DOC. Now, in the last year alone, we heard terrible stories about prisoner abuse, even death at the hands of the prison guards. 346 prisoners died in Florida's jails last year. Of those deaths, 179 of them are still considered pending on the website without a clear cause of death. Now the DOC has cleaned house, firing more than 60 staffers, and investigations still ongoing into dozens more for potential abuse. And now that some of the suspected abusers are out of the picture, the state leadership wants to put new rules in place. Now, part of the new law would require periodic inspections and audits to look for safety problems in the jails. But that's essentially just adding another checklist, and it still might not solve all the problems. Now, you still have to implement the process and carry it out, a lot of processes in place. The DOC also hired a new secretary, Julie Jones. She'll be tasked with overseeing this whole process, and along the way, she plans to increase officer training on the use of force, when to use it, when not to use it, and when to use non-forceful tactics. This is a very important part of this thing, especially when dealing with mentally ill inmates. The bill also creates opportunities for prisoners to make anonymous reports to shelter them from any kind of retribution from the prison guards. And in other news, police arrest a man in Wilton Manors after a small explosion set off a brush fire earlier this week. An interesting story, to be sure. When the police report showed there were shotgun casings on the ground, they decided to go back to the scene and check the things out. Now, the day after the fires broke out, a bomb squad showed up to investigate and brought a search warrant along with them. What they found inside was rather alarming. At least 4 homemade tube bombs wrapped in nails and other sharp shrapnel. Now, get this, the man told police, "Oh, don't worry, those are just for fishing." Now, just to be clear, for those of you who might be wondering, blowing fish out of the water with a homemade bomb wrapped in nails, that's also against the law, just so we're on the same page. But the police weren't even buying his fishy answers. 58-year-old Gregory Nepper is now facing felony charges. Now, when he showed up in court, Nepper referred to those devices as mortar shells. He also had industrial-grade fireworks there in the building. Now, Judge Jay Hurley ruled that Nepper will be held without bail and that he should seek help from a rehab facility in the interim. And just this week, we learned the news that Amendment 2 might come around after all, even though it fell short in November. We told you about that earlier this week. That was the medical marijuana ballot question. But Amendment 1 passed with 75% of the vote. Very popular. That was the Everglades bill, a law that would preserve Florida's wilderness for years to come. Now we're learning some of those details, and maybe a lot of money, but it's also, of course, one of the most popular items on the state agenda. Governor Rick Scott, no doubt emboldened by that 75% vote, now he's seizing the moment. Governor Scott proposing a $5 billion plan, with a B, over the next 20 years to preserve and protect the Everglades. Now, we know it's a 20-year plan, but we don't yet know all the details, how exactly that money will be spent over that amount of time. It's a long way to go still, but we do know that right out of the gate, the first $150 million is going to acquire a plot of land to build a natural habitat for panthers living in Florida. In Delray Beach, police are getting creative once again. It's a time for another community event in a larger effort to rehab the image of law enforcement in the eyes of the public. And this time, hey, they're bringing donuts along with them. Thursday, the department kicks off their Donuts with Delray Police Department event. Spokesman Jeffrey Messer says the overall goal is just to get to know the community and its residents over a little coffee and donuts. No doubt a little self-deprecating humor involved there. This is the first event of its kind, starting 8 a.m. Thursday morning at the Chamber of Commerce. And while we're in Delray Beach, another event there, we've got if you've one who tracks the annual events on your calendar, we've got one coming up right around the corner. If you're one who gets out and sees the town and different festivals, you might already know about the Garlic Fest, the 16th annual event, or as it's best known, the best stinkin' party in town. And it's a big party too. It's at the Old School Square. Happens from February 6th to 8th. All the proceeds from this is kind of the cool part about it, goes to nonprofit groups in the local area. And since they started out, Garlic Fest has done a big deal too. They've raised $500,000 for all those charities. Now at the event, they'll have all kinds of music and cooking classes for kids, cook-offs for the adults, and of course, special dishes all sharing one main ingredient, garlic. Now, the good news is you'll have more than a week after February 8th to freshen your breath before Valentine's Day gets here. And guys, don't forget, that's not far away on the calendar as well.